Welcome. We've got Patrick McSweeney. I asked him before the podcast, I was like, we've had you on, and I swore, it's almost like that. Have you ever heard of, there's like a movie, I think it's with that, it's supposedly like a genie movie with the actor Sinbad, but it was never made, and everyone thinks that there was one in like the 90s.
I always think of Kazam when it's a genie movie. With
Yeah,
Shaq.
with Shaq.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it is with you on the pod. I'm like, I've had him on here before. Yeah, we had him on here like a year ago, and you're like, I've never been on. So.
Yeah, you convinced me of that too, but usually I'm wrong, so I always
Well, I'm
listen
glad to be
you.
on.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go search YouTube and after this and see if you've been on. But no, it's been a long time coming. So Pat, you have been working here with Affiliate for 4 years?
4 years,
okay.
yeah.
4 years
before
now?
we moved to this space. So we started over at the old location.
Yep.
Beginning of the year, and then we moved here in December, I think, of 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like you've been around a lot longer than that.
I know.
Yeah.
I
Feels
literally
like
would
it.
have said like 8 years or something. I mean, while you've been with us through like the hardest,
For sure.
Well, just
darkest hours.
Well, post COVID, when we were, there was that whole year where it's a real blur to me, where we were kind of moving into this, and then I hate to say it, I was like, when you know you've got a foot out the door, we had been in the place for 10 years, banging it up with 500 people, 500 members in an affiliate, and you put a beating on a place when you do that. And we had just about every 4 years, and we're actually coming up to it here pretty soon, where we have a meeting where I'm going to be like, okay, we have to paint everything and do all of that. Well, we were definitely coming up to that spot right there. And we had done it in 2018, and then it was coming up right about 3 years in. It's like, we got to paint everything and like redo like half the gym. And then I'm like, we're out of here in 8 months. But then by the time like you get up to it, like I remember people walking in. I'm like, it's not going to look like this here in a month.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were there right in the midst of like
The move and everything.
pretty
Yeah.
chaotic time.
Yeah.
And then we got here and settled in, and right during that too, I don't know what your background was as far as like racing and doing things, but it seemed like when you got your job here, that really started to ramp up. Can you like tell us a little bit about that?
For sure, yeah. So I did my first triathlon in 2011, maybe it was. It was at Miami University in Oxford, and it was a sprint triathlon.
Yep.
And so I did that, and then I did a couple half marathons during that time. And
How
then
old were you in 2011?
23, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
That's pretty cool. Like right out of college.
Yeah, yeah. And it was basically just born out of trying to get some fitness back and lose a little weight.
Yep.
After the freshman 15 in college and
Sure,
stuff like
sure.
that. So yeah, I found that, and then after those 2 half marathons, basically got into more like weightlifting, bodybuilding style training. Put my headphones on and do my own thing in the corner of like Urban Active or something like that. So did that for a little while, and then went to PT school in 2013, and throughout that kind of did the same thing. And then
What did you do for work between?
so I graduated college in 2012, and then went to PT school in 2013.
Okay, so not
yeah,
much,
Yeah, so it was
What was your undergrad in?
nutrition and community health.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't know that.
yeah,
That's
so
cool.
had that background.
Did you know you wanted to go into physical therapy, or?
Probably about halfway through undergrad, I did.
Okay.
At first, I was biology and was
So
putting
hard.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
chemistry
So
and bio
hard, yeah.
really took its
Yeah.
toll. So yeah, after that was like, I know I want to do something medically related. No, I want to do something fitness related, and that was kind of the perfect blend of things. So yeah, that's kind of where I landed on PT.
Do you come from a family that's real active?
We were always I have 2 brothers, and we all played every sport growing up.
Okay.
So I swam, I dove, I played football, baseball, basketball, soccer, like everything under the sun.
Whatever the season was,
Yeah.
you were
Yeah, we
going and
switched.
signing up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you just enjoyed it and wanted to like learn more about it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in college, like I kind of alluded to, I didn't play anything and gained about 20 pounds, just like people do.
Yep.
And that's when I kind of really started like my fitness journey. It was kind of funny. I came home from my, I think for Thanksgiving break, and we took a family picture. And I saw that family picture in December, like when I came home for Christmas that year. And I was like, is that me? Like I just like face was super full and all that stuff. And so at that time I was like, all right, I need to do
I've seen some
about
old
this.
college pictures of myself like that.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're very swollen up.
For sure. I got stung by a bee everywhere, basically.
Well, you get out of high school, you get out of your parents' house where what I always realized, like with college, you know, you are fairly regimented, even when you get more freedom as you get older in high school. But like, you know, typically you're getting up early, you're going to school, you're walking to 6-7 different classes, you're getting up, you're moving around. You're not just sitting around eating all day, and then you eat like a quick lunch. They don't give you all that much time.
Yep.
And then after school, if you have activities or you have a job, you're running and gunning there. So you get to college, and then it's just this. You have a few classes, but you have all this open-ended
Freedom.
time.
And it's the drinking.
And you,
For sure.
and then you can and then you can eat anything you want. Like it's like, oh, my parents aren't telling me what to eat. And I just remember
Pizza for lunch, hamburgers for dinner, basically.
yeah, and then just kids like eating. I remember them like using their money that you would get for the dining hall and like just getting like tons of chips and stuff. It goes off the rails quick,
For sure.
you know, and it's just like it is a real learning experience, just like learning how to eat and feed yourself, and like you don't realize how immature. Like you think you have it all figured out when you're 18, and then you're like a 7-year-old out in the wild.
Brain wise, yes, for sure.
Yeah, as far as taking care of yourself.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I
No.
digressed.
No.
There.
It was that was a big learning moment though, and I feel like that period of time really like changed my trajectory in a lot of ways from like a health and fitness standpoint.
Yep.
So yeah, fast forward like 2017, I had graduated PT school the year before. I actually started CrossFit in 2017 and did that for a couple years, and then did my first half Ironman in 2019.
Okay.
And that was kind of something like just wanted a little change of pace. I kind of thought back to that 2011 when I did that sprint triathlon, was doing more like endurance and stuff like that. And I just really enjoyed that time. I feel like that was a time that I like learned a lot about myself and stuff like that. So I wanted to kind of revisit some of the endurance stuff. And so yeah, I did my first half Ironman, and then just like dove headfirst into learning more about how to train and how to nutrition for that and fueling that kind of training and what that looked like. And then that's kind of been my focus ever since.
You get some time to think, I would imagine, when you are training for those things.
For sure.
You're in here a lot. Well,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't trained for a lot of things where I'm like in my head for long times, but even in the, you know, when I'll do 20, 30-minute endurance pieces, like you go through a lot of things mentally, and now you know, extrapolate that out an hour or hour and a half training pieces that you're doing every day. You know, you're in your head a lot, huh?
For sure.
Is that where you learn some stuff?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think over that time, I don't know if there was like a aha moment, but I feel like I'm more of a introvert at heart. Like I'm maybe like an ambivert. Like there's an extrovert side, but from a recharge standpoint, definitely an introvert. And so that time to myself with nothing but my thoughts was valuable to me for
I know
sure.
what you mean.
So,
Do you find that it helps you, like, because you're kind of expending so much energy that you can kind of filter through the thoughts that aren't productive and just like the things that come up? I mean, because I haven't done near like the endurance side of things that you have, but I feel like because you're expending, when I've gone on like long runs or just on half marathons, I'm working out hard enough that you don't have time to like fixate on the bullshit that isn't important. So it's almost like it kind of like narrows that focus for you, and you're feeling like what really matters, because it's like your body doesn't have the energy to like fixate on these other things. So you're not just like in your head like ruminating, you know, how we all will about things that don't matter. It's more just like, hey, this is too much energy. Focus on this.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a big, obviously mind-body connection with exercise in general. But yeah, when you're going out for 2-3 hour long bike rides, you get a lot of time in your own head, and you can, like you said, filter through those things, and really ultimately you're exhausted after those pieces, and you're like, okay, what else do I have to do today? And it's like, it really just narrows your focus as far as family, kids, work. Like that's, which I've again find a lot of value in having that structure to my life and to training and stuff like that too. So I think it provides a lot of value that way too. So
cool.
So when you do that, what I was just telling Kate, like what training does, I've almost thought about it is, so when you work out, that buys you about 4 or 5 hours in a day. And what I mean by that is how you feel. So if you just go to work and you just sit all day and you don't do anything, that's when they start going to a couple things. Food, even like a lot of caffeine, drugs, alcohol, or pharmaceuticals.
Social media too, just distracting yourself.
Just to be able to sit inside your body, they start going to these things. But what training does is you feel real good in your body for about 4 or 5 hours after that. And then that, like, you don't want to go reach for a drink or eat, like, food that wouldn't feel right, that's going to, sit in your body wrong. You wouldn't feel the need to maybe take a drug that, like, because you don't have the anxiety now. You don't need to tamp it down with something. So it just kind of clicked with me, I don't know, a few months ago. I'm like, that's what it really, from that mental aspect, it's not just a mental, it's like a physiological thing where it gives you this chunk of time. And then now, so if you got 5 hours in the middle of your day that it just gave you, you don't have that much more time throughout your day where you're like, where you just have to sit with yourself.
Yeah, your mind's running and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I think it's prepping for it too. So, I mean, especially if you're going out for a couple hours, you're thinking about, like, you're being very mindful of how you eat and how you treat your body leading up to it. But even like a CrossFit workout, like, we're kind of doing the same thing. Like, how am I going to feel if I'm working out at 10 a.m.? This is how I need to feel and fuel before, or even in the morning, the night before, this is how, like, I'm already thinking tonight for tomorrow at Hoover, that's going to be a hard workout for me. So I need to, like, plan accordingly, not just tomorrow morning, but tonight, because it's both, like, if I eat a little more tonight, I'm going to sleep a little better. I'm going to wake up feeling a little more recovered. And then it's more hours out of your day where it's not just the event and the after, like, effects of what it does to your mood, but it's like preparing and then kind of recovering. And that's what I always had a hard time with once I got into the endurance things, is I would get so hungry and so exhausted that I feel really out of control when I'm not balanced. And so it's really hard. It was really hard for me not to go home and house a box of cereal. And it just, like, it kind of threw me over that edge. But kind of the same thing, if I train CrossFit really hard, or just that feeling super exhausted, I have to work on.
Yeah.
Because it's part of like getting yourself in better shape. But just when I feel off, I want to, like, fix it right away. And you kind of just need to, like, it's okay to be tired.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too the structure that it gives you, like, not only the physiological benefit, the structure of, like, planning ahead for the training the next day, but also, like, if you're training to improve in a certain area, whatever it is, whether it's improving in CrossFit or, an endurance race, you're trying to increase improve your 5K time, that, like, long-term goal, I think, helps make, like, your decision-making process, in those day-to-day decisions as well, where you're like, okay, I'm not going to have that, second, third drink because I'm like, I got to get up and do whatever training session tomorrow. So I think that overall structure, that bigger umbrella of training towards something, helps you in your day-to-day decision-making too.
Yeah.
which is huge.
Gonna have like a gas station breakfast burrito on the way into a bike ride.
Right. And like, yeah, and those day-to-day decisions, when you get decision fatigue, you're exhausted from work and all the other things that you're managing. If you have that overall framework and structure already, we're like, no, I'm not gonna do the dumb thing. That's,
you don't battle with yourself. You just like do.
It's like, no, it's easy because I don't want to feel like crap the next day because I know that I have whatever goal I'm working towards. So
yeah.
I think that provides a lot of value too.
Yeah.
So you did a full Ironman. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like that's like, so there's training for a half one or even like half a marathon. There's like other things you can have kind of going on in your life. I feel like I don't have a lot of experience, but from what I've experienced with our clients here, like half marathons, they can do CrossFit for 4 or 5 days a week and do a little extra running. Once they go to like a full marathon, then they can sprinkle it in a touch, but it's mostly training for that full Ironman. You know, went and saw like, you know, Mike and all of you guys like go really all in, and that is that's a race that's going to be 3 times as long as a full marathon. So what was that like?
It was a lot for sure.
Yeah.
It was something that I've always wanted to do, I think, just from like a fitness standpoint. I think, again, kind of going back to when I was overweight and unhealthy and kind of at that low point, it's like, man, that'd be pretty cool to be able to do that someday.
Sure.
So I think that was the driver behind a lot of it, because it is not a balanced lifestyle at
Oh, yeah.
all. Like, especially compared to where I'm at now training wise. But everything you do goes into how you're going to get your training in, what you're going to eat, and fitting in most of the time multiple sessions a day. I mean,
it's like a full-time job,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, I mean, at my peak, I think I was training 15 plus hours a week, and that was for a couple months at a time.
Yeah.
And you probably don't have a lot in you to like do housework.
No.
A lot of other stuff.
My wife and I joke. So like we moved into our house in 21. We did that full Ironman in 22, and she's like, we could have got so much more housework done in that time.
You weren't painting on the weekends.
No. So yeah, it's a job for sure.
Yeah.
And not only that, but from a training standpoint, like balancing strength training and doing all the other things that I like to do. There's not a lot of time to do those other things too. So yeah, it's a tricky balance. And people always ask me, like, do you think you'll do another one? I don't know. I think at some point, like maybe when I have 2 young sons, maybe when they're a little older, I'd like to have another crack at it when I have a little more time. But right now, the balance just doesn't fit into that.
So what about the event itself? Like, what was that like?
Yeah. It was, so weather-wise, we had a brutal day. It was in June.
It was hot, wasn't it?
It was like 95.
Ooh.
For the run. So yeah, we were looking at, you're checking the weather. I don't know if you've done a race before, you've experienced this. We're like, okay, I'm going to check the weather every day for that week, multiple times a day.
Yeah, you want it to be kind of cool.
Right. Beginning of the week, it was looking like it was going to be 70s. I was like, perfect. By like Wednesday of the week, it was like creeping up into the upper 80s, low 90s. I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. So it ended up being like mid 90s on the day.
Oh.
So people were dropping like flies. It was like a common did not finish rate, DNF rate for an Ironman, I think is below 10%. And this was upwards of 20+%, I think, for that race. So it was a brutal day. But yeah, so you start with if you're not familiar, we start with the swim. It's a 2.4 mile swim, which for like professionals is like around upper 40s to low 50 minutes. For a normal person, I think it took me a little over an hour. The cutoff for that is like over 2 hours. So some people are in the water for a long time. So you start there. The water was nice. It was great. Then you get onto the bike ride. It's a 112-mile bike ride. It was like halfway through the bike when it just felt like somebody just like reached into the oven, just turned the heat up, because the clouds broke, the sun came out, and it was gnarly. It was in Des Moines, Iowa. It's much hillier there than anybody would ever expect. Like you would think it's just flat cornfields. But it's pretty undulating. Like the terrain was pretty hilly. So those hills start to chew up your legs pretty good too.
I would imagine.
So yeah, you finish that bike ride, and then
how long did the bike ride take you?
Like 6.5 hours, I think. Which is a long time on your bike.
Yeah, I mean,
just your butt's gonna.
Yeah,
just really
does your butt hurt, or your body's
your butt
used
hurts.
to it? Okay,
Yeah, your butt hurts, your back hurts,
just everything hurts.
Everything
so you're
hurts.
like,
and I was getting, I think it was a nutrition thing looking back on it.
yeah.
But I was getting like probably 60 miles in. I got like both quads cramping up at the same time, and then I stood up and both hamstrings cramped at the same time.
Ooh.
So I was like, I need some salt.
Yep.
So yeah, that was like during that long of a race, a lot of it's just like in race navigation of like, how's your body feeling? What do you need in that time frame?
What things
stuff.
are just starting to behave
like
weird?
Freak out.
Yeah.
That's got to be scary. Like it preparing for it for so long, and then just feeling like you don't have control over kind of like these environmental factors that.
Yeah. And like in a race that long, I mean, the time really adds up. Like every little time that you're slowing down because you're cramping, or you're, you get off your bike to grab like more nutrition or something like that. That time just starts to add up, and you start looking at your watch like, damn, I've been out here for 8 hours and I still have a marathon to go to run. So it starts to mess with you mentally too.
You are not selling anyone on
this.
You're like, God, a 6-hour car ride is kind of hard for me to sit through.
Okay, so we're back to it. We're dealing with cramps. We're getting into towards the end of the bike, and you're just trying to, like, you've been at it for 8 hours now.
Surviving, yeah.
So and it's getting hotter too, right? Progressively warmer. What time did the race start?
It was like 6:45, so it started early, and it was cool in the morning. It was probably like mid-60s in the morning, which felt great. The water was pretty cold. Like, being in the beginning half of the summer, the water hasn't warmed up yet and stuff like that. So felt good in the swim. But yeah, so you're 8 hours in, and what happens on a bike is you're getting a cooling effect from the wind. So like, you don't know how hot you actually are until you get off of your bike. So like, pull into transition, and I never want to see my bike again after that time period.
Take it and throw it away.
Like you guys can sell this, it's fine.
Trash it.
So yeah, you get through there, and it's like, okay, running has been my strength. Like, it's something I look forward to. Like in any triathlon, I'm like, I can't wait to get off the bike, because I just want to.
This is where you can pass some people.
Yeah, I want to get my 2 feet on the ground.
Can you just dump ice on yourself?
That's
like
what I would do.
Yeah, I wondered if they just had like ice buckets
there. They do.
there.
Okay. Yeah. So
probably helps a little.
For sure. But yeah, at that point, so yeah, fast forward, you get through transition, and you start the run, and it seems like the heat has just been turned up another 10, 20 degrees, because you don't have that cooling effect from the wind and stuff like that. So yeah, they have ice at the aid stations, and it was so hot, and my body temperature was so high, I would grab the biggest chunk of ice I could and basically just like football carry it from like one aid station to the next, and it would melt in between that time, which was 5-10 minutes. Like, so that gives you a picture of what it was like.
How far apart are the aid stations?
It varies, but typically like every mile or so.
So you're just melting ice on you?
Yeah.
To just try and cool your sizzling body down?
Yeah. And so, yeah, you're just in survival mode, like early on.
I know how fast you are. How
run.
fast are you running, like, per mile pace at this point?
So it's started out, I was probably running like 8:30 pace. Okay. 8:45, which in retrospect was way too fast. I should not have done that. But yeah, so that's
usually such an easy pace for you.
Yeah, like
it's
I guess
hard to
that's
know.
a super aerobic, sort of. Yeah.
Which is what you're shooting for. Like, you want to start in that beginning of the run. Like, it should be very easy aerobically. Like, should not be taxing at all. Which it was. It didn't feel bad from a breathing or aerobic standpoint, but then your legs just get fried. It slowed to, I think my marathon time was like 5 hours, which in comparison, I just ran Columbus Marathon in under 3.5 hours. So big pace differential there.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to ask, because
Yeah.
you're so exhausted and you have to like just try and endure it.
Yeah.
What pace per mile is that?
For
Like the
Columbus.
5.
for 5 hours,
Yeah.
it's like 12-minute miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's the Columbus pace?
7:40 or something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah. But I mean, you're not swimming
Right.
and biking, and,
And
it's
it
not
wasn't
95
degrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
The heat, like, really, I think, affects me. I mean, it affects everybody,
Right.
but, like, I sweat a ton.
Yeah.
It, you know, in retrospect, I feel like I could go out and do one with the same training significantly faster,
Yeah.
even in the same conditions, just knowing more now.
Right. Did
so
you have to worry about potassium?
I
Because
didn't,
you were
but I
sweating.
probably
Okay.
should have.
Yeah. That's something my friend Cassie
Yes. Yeah.
has like a problem she's run into.
Yeah, so I'm a very like heavy, salty sweater, and so yeah, like now I know. I mean, then I was not taking in nearly enough sodium. Now knowing what I know, I take in like 1,400 milligrams of sodium an hour,
Okay.
or electrolytes, and then I was probably taking like 300.
How do you take
So-
those in? Like, what do you use?
So I'm basically make my own concoction.
Okay.
There's an app that I use that's it's called Saturday. It basically you punch in like what you're doing training wise or racing wise, like intensity and duration, and then it spits back like how many carbs, how much liquid, and what kind of
that's
like
really
sodium
neat.
do you need.
Yeah.
So I use it's called Scratch. It's like a hydration
Did that
mix.
before, yeah.
So I'll do some scoops of that, and then I supplement it with brown sugar and just like table salt.
Okay.
They should
Yeah.
have a machine like,
I
you know
like
at
that,
the
like all
movies?
natural.
Yeah.
You know at the movies where they now have like the pop dispensers where it's, I don't know, there's like hundreds of combinations.
Yeah.
You do that here with like pre and post workout drinks, all
be
of that.
great.
That's our invention right there.
There it is.
And you mix like, it gives like creatine
We could
in
do
it,
that
and
in the
like
lobby.
aminos. Yeah, that's what I
Then
mean.
we don't have to spend $50,000 on a build out.
There you go.
And then people just do beep, 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 beep. And then it goes, just like at the movies, the same thing. You get like your orange diet crush, caffeine-free
Yeah.
thing, or,
Yep.
you know.
Throw a
gives
little
you
cherry
drink.
Coke in there.
Not a bad idea.
But really, it's all just kind of like it is cherry Coke.
Yeah.
But you say it's like all these like aminos and creatines and like this
tastes
perfect
amazing.
blend of
You get a
muscle building.
euphoric feeling off of sugar.
Yeah.
It's just like cherry
Good
Coke coming out.
old-fashioned one.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly
And
what
it's
you need
only
right now.
here. No one else can check this out.
Special blended formula.
Okay, back
Yeah.
to the focus.
Okay, sorry.
So you've become more like our run guy here. Like everybody knows you're the person to see. Like if I mean, I have my clients come see you, and I have a couple of mine now, just watching them run Summer Shred and just their form. Because I feel like you're not only able to help with like dry needling, but really be able to kind of break down someone's gait. But you have a new tool that you're using too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So we did before we would do a video running analysis. So we would take a video from a couple different angles of people running, and we can glean a lot of information from that, from how you're landing and those kind of things. But now we have something called a Stride Pod, which is a wearable device that just clips right onto your shoes, and it is just like a biosensor. It just gives you a lot of feedback on what your running is doing. Basically, we're looking at a couple of different metrics there. So your cadence, your stride length, how much time you're spending on the ground, so your ground contact time. It can show you like your balance between left and right leg, like how much force we're putting through one leg versus the other. It can give you, like I said, your cadence and those kind of things, how up and down you're going. So if you've all seen like a bouncy runner, somebody who covers a lot of distance
Julie,
up
if
and
you're
down.
watching this, I always tell her, I'm like, you're going to move so much faster when you quit moving straight up.
Yes.
Julie Windsor,
Yeah.
or Gossard, I mean.
So we can look at those objective measurements with this new device that we have, and it's a great tool for us because it not only we can see like video wise what you're doing, we also have objective data to be able to back that up as far as
really
those
neat.
little changes and things like
Can
that.
you tell
too.
the difference between like your length of your right, like when your right foot's leading and your
Yep.
left foot?
That stride length?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that plays this out? I'm just curious about this because I keep pulling my hamstring. I know it's a common injury. Do you think that makes more of a difference, that stride length and reaching too much, or do you think it's more like the weight in that foot that causes that, like, because like if once I start injuring my right leg, it's always my right leg, and then I'll do my left, and I'll always. But I wonder like what gets off and what plays more of a role there.
It's probably both. So overstriding is one of the biggest, like most common things that we see from a running mechanic standpoint.
I always do it when I start wanting to run faster. I'm like, just go faster, move your legs faster.
And so it's that combination of landing with your foot farther out in front of you, which is an already pretty unstable position. Your hamstring's in a lengthened position.
Yeah.
And so then you're trying to produce force from that lengthened position, which is just a very hard position for your muscle to produce force from.
Yeah.
So, and it's a not only a lot of stress, but also when you already have an injury or pain, our muscle capacity is probably a little less than too. So if we're putting it at more risk already, and we already have an underlying issue, it just kind of compounds that risk factor there.
Okay.
So yeah, it's one of the things from a gait standpoint that we try to teach folks is not generating length from the front of your stride, but it's more from the back of your stride. So it's basically generating more force with your posterior chain, your glutes, your hamstrings in the back end of your stride, which will lengthen your stride, but also prevent that overstriding from happening.
I never think about that trailing leg. That's really interesting.
So yeah, that's one of the, would be a good cue for you to focus on.
Yeah.
So.
And then what do you find is like the most kind of some of the most common issues? I mean, you said like overextension.
Yeah.
When you see people run.
Yeah. The overstriding and too slow of a run cadence are probably the two biggest things that we see. So cadence plays a big role because we talked about ground contact time. So how much time you're spending in each step. The example I give people is like if I ask you to air squat and you just go up and down, that's a lot different than if I say pause at the bottom for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
It's a lot more taxing. Basically, if we have a higher ground contact time, if we're spending more time on the ground, our muscles, our joints, our soft tissues have to work that much harder to be able to support that stance leg. So.
And people would probably say, well, hey, I can't keep up this pace, but then would you advise just run at this cadence and then walk?
Yes.
Be better for your body.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so there's a neuromuscular retraining that has to happen there. So it's we get into a pattern, like we know it from any skill development, any movement practice that you have, whether it's snatching or running.
Yeah.
There's a neurological pattern to that, and a lot of times folks just need to change that neurological pattern. So when we increase cadence, people are like, it feels good, like less pain, but it metabolically, aerobically,
freaks them
more
out.
taxing.
They can't
at
maintain
first.
that. Yeah.
So intervals are a great way to do that. 200s, 400s, that sort of thing, where you're just like, I'm really focusing on these mechanics for those shorter durations. And then you just start to expand that time that you're spending from a running mechanic standpoint.
Okay. And then what if someone has more of like an endurance event well, let's even say like a 5K. Would you still tell them like, okay, let's run for 2 minutes hard, walk for a minute, and let's keep this good cadence. It's not going to beat up your body as much. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great workout for that person. And especially if we're trying to fix something from a mechanic standpoint.
Yeah.
It's not realistic to be like, go run for 30 minutes and try to hold on to these mechanics for that long. Like we don't have the muscular endurance. We don't have the neurological pattern like ingrained that much yet. When people get tired, they're going to go back to what they know. So those intervals can be a really great way to not only train, but also train your mechanics too.
Right. So. Right. Well, it makes sense, like in a CrossFit workout, like if you're squatting or you're doing a push jerk or something, you need to do good reps, and then you need to take a break so you don't hurt your back.
Exactly.
So it makes sense in this way too. But that time, like the time that your foot spins on the ground, it's interesting to hear like how important that is, and not to basically just not slow down your cadence. Keep your cadence in your form. I see so many people start to run with straight legs. That's like the biggest thing that I see. And it's more, I know it's like an energy thing to get their knees up, to get their heels up. And so when they do that, do they have more contact time? Is that what you mean too? And the cadence is slower? Okay.
So when you overstride, your tendency is going to be to land with a straighter leg. Like your foot's reaching out in front of you, your knee's going to be a little straighter when you're landing. So you're spending more time to try to get through that gait cycle than if you're landing with your foot more underneath you, which is just a more efficient use of both your muscles and the time that you're spending on the ground to produce force through the ground.
Yeah. And how long does that test usually take that you would do?
Typically about 15 minutes or so from like a initial standpoint, and then usually we'll review the video, and then we'll review the statistics that we gathered from the stride
But
pod.
they don't have to run for 15 minutes.
No,
Just
no,
so people know.
yeah.
No one's going to sign up for it.
You run for an hour straight. No. Typically like between getting acclimated to the treadmill, all those kind of things, like we'll talk through things for a little while. That whole process takes about 15 minutes or so. And then we're doing little tweaks. So we'll look at that data and then be like, okay, let's try this instead. And then we'll go for another minute or so at a time just to work on some of those things.
Do you ever have anyone do it, or have you done it for like a long run?
Yeah.
To watch how like that breaks down?
I haven't done it for more than like an hour at this point,
Okay.
which for me right now is pretty long.
Yeah.
But for like obviously like marathon training and stuff like that,
I
you're
just
getting
think that
into
would be interesting once you get
hours.
tired. Like, okay, what starts to happen?
It would be interesting. Yeah.
But
So
now, an hour in, you're going to probably
start to
things
see
are going to
some
start
changes.
to fatigue out,
Yeah.
and you're not going to have perfect form anymore.
Yeah, and it's cool. The data that we get is not only like a average of the overall. You can also get like a basically like minute by minute breakdown of like how that metric changes over.
Really geek
over
out
time.
on this.
Yeah.
Like you're like rewatching
I like it. I nerd
football
out
plays.
on it.
after
Oh
a game.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you could really see like where that breakdown is
Yeah.
over an extended period of time.
Okay, so if someone wants to do this, how do we get signed up for it?
Yeah, so you can look on our website, affiliatept.com. We have right now, if you are signed up for Summer Shred, you can get a free stride pod running analysis. If you are looking for like a full-blown running analysis and you're not doing Summer Shred, then you would book just a running analysis on our website.
Okay, cool.
I think it'd be great for everyone to do that's doing Summer Shred.
Yeah.
I know I could have used it for my track workout Tuesday because I'm still lumping from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, in the CrossFit space with running being mixed into other activities and other, movements.
You got the Hyrox thing that's getting big too.
Exactly.
So you're doing a lot of fatigued running.
For
sure.
sure.
Running under like fatigue from, other movements.
Yeah.
Where that you need to be able to click into that form.
Yes.
Without thinking about it too much.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah. And that's where mechanics can be such a focus. Like we're really focused on like speed and increasing like 400 and 800 in time and stuff like that. But if you can get really efficient in those gait mechanics, it's going to make that portion of a workout feel that much less taxing. So you can go harder in other areas and stuff like that too. So.
And do you find it's mainly like glute and hamstring weakness for the breakdown
That's the biggest
of those?
thing. Yeah. I think a lot of times it's not being able to feel our glutes in that position, because when we are landing with that foot out in front of us, our butt is at such a mechanical disadvantage.
Yeah.
So being able to bring that stride more underneath us, landing with that foot more underneath our hip, it just puts our glute at such a better position. So it's not always even a weakness as much as a inability to activate or access that muscle group when we're running.
It's funny because I always go back to like high school. I used to have a butt until I started running. I'm like, if I would have just learned how to run right, I could have kept my
Still
butt.
be there.
And it just was never firing.
Yes.
I
But
ran it right off.
But that's where things like squatting and deadlifting and doing all the posterior chain development stuff can help a lot of runners too.
Like the awareness and feeling.
They need to be able to have
connection.
those muscles too. Yeah. So that's where, from a strength training standpoint for runners, it's the recommendation is higher weight, lower rep, like really focusing on that overall like strength, because they miss a lot of that piece from a running standpoint. So,
yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 5 more workouts by the time this podcast hits. So it'll be 4 more workouts, like another month. So it'd be neat if everybody got in.
Yeah, for sure.
Got in for one. You might get
Come
busy
on in.
now.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Get your running analysis scheduled. I'm going to here in a second because I need to.
I'm
I need
afraid
to
look at
re-up on it. I took the CrossFit endurance course a decade ago. I don't know. I don't think so, but it was great, and it really helped me. I'd never learned any running mechanics
came
before.
back with a lot of material from that.
Tons.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with the things they taught, and it was a lot of like the stuff you're talking about. It sounded so familiar from that course. So I'd like to kind of re-up on that because I'm getting like, little tweaks in my feet and hamstrings and things like that. So I need to.
That'll be running for the elderly. We'll have to.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll start a geriatric running course.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Yeah.